We are coming to you from the city beautiful Chicago, Illinois, where this afternoon WGN Sports presents White Sox baseball. It's Robin Ventura and his young and exciting and very fast Chicago White Sox as they get set to butt heads with Ron Gardenhire and his Minnesota Twins. Hi, everybody, and welcome. With Steve Stone, I'm Ken Harrell. Since we get set to bring you the finale of this three-game set, as you know, the Sox have taken the first two. Chris Sale was just beautiful in game one. They won it 5-3. A couple of home runs by Diaz. And then yesterday, Leury Garcia with an 0-2 bunt leading off the bottom of the 11th came around to score on a wild pitch. Very exciting ball game. And the Sox won that one 7-6. But the Twins, they've been having trouble scoring all spring. They've been having trouble scoring last year. And a couple of guys the keys to that ball club.
Talked to Ron Gardenhire, and he told me that Josh Willingham and Aaron Hicks are the keys to this team. For Willingham, he's got to revert to 2 years ago when he was all everything. He hit 260, but it was the 35 home runs, 110 driven in that really did the job for him. Then knee problems derailed him. Last year was a difficult year, and hopefully for the Twins, he can come back. Aaron Hicks is a guy who's had two great springs in a row. In fact, a couple of years ago, he hit 370. This year, he hit 327. And this is a guy who has started out red hot. He's a terrific center fielder. He's got great speed, and he's a switch hitter. So he has to do it if the Twins are going to do it. And, oh, by the way, we've got a pretty good man on the mound.
He is the most underrated, under-the-radar left-hander in all of baseball. Last year, 17 no decisions. That led to Major League, so it was 8 and 10.
Quintana is one of those guys that you take for granted because he's so consistent. And yet when you look at him game in and game out, he keeps his team in the game. Last year he threw 200 innings. You look at his record, it's not much to think about. However, when you realize how good he pitched with an ERA of 3.51, you'll realize he's the real #2 starter on this team. And hopefully, with a good day today, he's going to keep this team undefeated. There are 6 undefeated teams in all of baseball. And when you look at the standings, it has to give a little bit of a smile on your face to see the Sox right there.
All right, sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
Chicago White Sox baseball is brought to you by Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. By Ford, proud sponsor of your Chicago White Sox. Check out America's best-selling brand at your local Ford store or online at localfordstores.com. And by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Yesterday's reversal of the fly ball out to center field in the 7th inning raised some questions about how players are going to have to react when a call is made that might be overturned. Robin Ventura said it might not be enough to finish the play that's called, but continue to play in case the on-the-field ruling is reversed.
This year, with replay and just how they're going to call the exchange that goes on of the catch, no catch, you're always going to have to finish a play, and that's something that's new. I think for a lot of players, it's going to be new on how they react when something like that happens. You just have to finish it. You have to act like you didn't catch it, which is unusual, and it'll be different for the players, I think, from here on out. Your natural reaction is to, everybody kind of goes with what the call is, because that's the way everybody grew up. It's just changed, so you have to get used to it, and they really have to kind of change their mindset on how they react in situations like that.
Stay with us, because we'll be back with the lineups and today's first pitch after a break. Is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports. Today's game's available in Spanish on your SAP audio setting, provided by 97.5 FM ESPN Deportes, Chicago's first and only Spanish language sports radio station. It's a cool day today here in Chicago. It was raining all morning, but the skies have cleared somewhat. There is no rain, although there's some in the offing, but it's 38 degrees. Players would rather play today as long as they're here. It's getaway day. It's on to Kansas City, but they don't want any double headers starting in August, because you never know how the other parts of the schedule play out. So there will be baseball. And let's take a look at how Ron Gardner is going to line up his Minnesota Twins this afternoon. Ryan Dozier is going to lead it off. Joe Mauer, the designated hitter who hit third opening day, is hitting second for the second day in a row. Then it's Josh Willingham, Chris Colabella, Trevor Plouffe at third, Oswaldo Arcia in right field. Osmio Pinto behind the plate, Aaron Hicks in center field, and a late insertion into the lineup, former White Sox Eduardo Escobar at shortstop. The defense and how they'll line up behind Jose Quintana. It's Alejandro Diaz off to a hot start in left, Adam Eaton in center, Abisail Garcia in right. Marcus Semien for the second day in a row at third base, as Connor Gillespie has the flu. Lexi Ramirez, who's off to a red-hot start at shortstop. Leury Garcia was a big factor in the win yesterday, with Jose Abreu at first. Tyler Flowers once again gets a nod behind the plate. And Jose Quintana on the hill. Last year, 17 no decisions. That led all of baseball. He was 9-7 with a fine ERA of 3.51. He did make 33 starts, and getting to 200 innings for him was a wonderful accomplishment, as he got bigger and stronger in the offseason, and he parlayed it into a very solid year. The umpires for the ball game today: behind the plate is C.B. Buckner. At first base is Al Gibson. The crew chief, Dale Scott, is at second, and Dan Iasonia is at third. So on a raw day in Chicago, the Sox look to sweep the Twins out of town. And they're throwing the ball around the infield, which means we're ready to play baseball. And I'm ready to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
Hi, Stevie. Thank you very much. And once again, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here with WGN Sports. So glad you could join us for the finale of this brief 3-game homestand. And before we show you our picks to click, you think about it in this half inning, and we'll give it to you in the bottom half. Here's Brian Dozier. He is 0 for 10 in the series. Next first pitch strike. Twins come in hitting at .244 through the first 2 games with a 5.30 ERA. Takes that one inside. The count evens at 1 in here at the ballpark. 330 down the left field line, 335 down the right field line, 375 in the gaps, and 400 straightaway center. Alexei. 1 out.
If Jose is going to use that cutter, if it's a good pitch for him today, and you would expect it would be, the left side of the infield is going to be very busy. Marcus Semien played a very good third base yesterday. And between Semien and Ramirez, they should get ground balls aplenty.
Here's the DH this afternoon, first baseman. In the first 2 games, Joe Mauer, who's 0 for 8 in the first 2. It's been a while since we've seen him go 0 for 8 in 2 games against us, or against anybody, really. 323 lifetime hitter.
The most amazing part of the 0 for 8 is he hasn't had the ball out in the infield yet.
1-1 to count. Outfield around to the left. 2 balls and a strike.
Wouldn't mind seeing Jose go inside on Mauer. Hitters don't like the ball in on a very cold, very damp day here in Chicago.
Threw that one right by him. Mauer 6 for 12 lifetime with a couple of home runs against Quintana. He got a get me over breaking ball right there and just missed it. Thank goodness.
That looked like a curveball that just kind of spun right there. And Joe swinging real well. That's a double in the gap. Garcia well off the line in right field.
There you go.
Threw it by him up and in, and that's where you want to throw them after you throw cutters. You throw occasional curveballs. And if you can keep it letter high inside part of the plate, you got a good chance.
So here's Willingham, Josh. 1 for 8 in the first 2 games in lifetime against Jose. Is 6 for 13 with 2 of those 6 leaving the ballpark. Got to play right side.
Lights around at the ballpark, as you would expect on an overcast day. Minnesota will get done here today, and their road trip continues. They go to Cleveland for 3 before going home and entertaining the Oakland Athletics and Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City and the Tigers were rained out today.
Kansas City, after losing a couple of close ball games, might not be too disappointed about that.
I don't know. You know, I got different. I thought about that club. I think they probably wanted to play and get, because they could have won both those games very easily. They had the opportunity after Scherzer left.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good ball club. I mean, they're gonna play good, solid baseball all year long. But Detroit, as they've done the last couple of years, found some way to win those ball games.
Well, that's the whole thing. Is there's a base hit in the left field. That's the whole thing. The Tigers is a mindset, and they've handled Kansas City well the last couple of seasons, especially last year. It was a big series there when Kansas City was making a move last season. They let Cabrera get to him a couple times when he shouldn't have gotten to him.
And Cleveland felt the same way, because in talking to some of the Indians in spring training, they said the same thing. If they were able to handle Detroit, they probably would have won the division. But as much as they killed our ball club, they just couldn't handle the Tigers at all.
Well, they just, Tigers beat them like a drum.
They did.
Here's Chris Colabello. Makes first pitch strike.
Colabello's natural stroke is to right and right center field.
One and one to count. You said it earlier, though. Hours at the plate. Guys just don't like go days like this to be pounded inside. They hate it.
Now, especially when a guy has a natural inside-out stroke, you don't mind getting in, and especially right around the hands to Colabello.
Blocked nicely by Tyler.
Colabello originally signed by the Tigers in 2005, but apparently they really didn't like what they saw. He was released in 22 days. That's somewhat surprising.
Three and one to count. Trevor Plouffe on deck.
Plouffe has been swinging the bat awfully well, hitting just about every fastball he's seen.
Helps him out, so a full count. Throw it away. He's not going to be doing anything except taking a short lead, and then on 3-2, 2 out, just take off.
Especially with Willingham, who's had so many leg problems that speed is not a big part of his game.
Long look in, and the payoff pitch. He gone. Nice pitch. Couple of strikeouts. After a half inning of play, it's the Twinkies nothing, and the good guys coming to bat.
Up his Sox today. Adam Eaton to lead it off, and it's Marcus Semien, Jose Abreu, Adam Dunn, Avisail Garcia, Alejandro Diaz, Alexei Ramirez, Tyler Flowers behind the plate, and Leury Garcia at second and hitting ninth. The defense, an outdoor lineup behind the former Yankee Phil Hughes, Willingham, Hicks, and Arcia, Kloof, Escobar, and Dozier, along with Colabello in the infield, Osmeal, Pinto behind the plate, and Phil Hughes on the hill. Last year, 4-14, ERA, 5.19 and 29 starts. Had a couple of very good years with the Yankees. But they decided to let him go. Pitching staff here last year, especially the starting rotation, was in a shambles. They felt that Phil Hughes would be one of the guys to help him back to respectability, and they're looking for big things from him.
So here's Adam. Makes first pitch strike. 2 for 9 in the series. In case you missed it, break up the Mariners.
They swept them. Swept the Angels.
Yes, they did. That's outside. That's the first. 3-0 start in franchise history. Excuse me, third. They did it in 85 and 95. Just to smoke a couple home runs, 7 RBIs in that series. Yeah, Cano changed the whole dynamics of that lineup.
Well, Brad Miller at shortstop is a guy that not a lot of people have heard about.
I like that guy,
but
boy.
we loved him in the spring, and I think the folks around baseball are really going to like him because he can swing the bat.
Yeah, I like that guy. Zunino, I like that Zunino as well. There's a good pitch, fights it off. Yeah, but Brad Miller's catch your eye at that plate.
He's going to be one of the premier offensive shortstops in the game.
Got a little bit of a funky throwing motion. Checks it up. He did not go.
Rick Anderson, the pitching coach of the Twins, would like to see Phil Hughes throw a few more of these curveballs. He's got a good one. This is a dandy. Drops out of the zone and had him able to check his swing. But this curveball is what made him a pretty good pitcher when he went 18-8 with the Yankees in 2010. Whatever reason, the Yankees wanted him to throw more sliders. And although in 2012 he went 16-13, last year he fell off to 4-14. Slider maybe not the best pitch for him. The curveball will be because of the change of speeds.
That's good at bat. Battling, working man's at bat. Well, I talked to our hitters the first time he pitched against us, and the thing they kept coming back with was his curveball. His curveball. They didn't mention his fastball. They said he's got a good one, but he's an outstanding curveball.
And if you can throw at 2 different speeds, it really helps, because then not only location but velocity will fool the hitter.
Here's Marcus looking for his first hit. He's 0 for 10 in the first 2 games. And he takes the pot.
Terry Steinbach, former great catcher for this team and now a coach, has been working with Osmeal Pinto on catching the baseball with a runner on first base or second base in a steal situation. He had a tendency to reach out and get it. He wants to absorb the baseball and then get his footwork together. You would think in this scenario somewhere we're going to see if those lessons have been learned, because you figure Adam Eaton to run.
Well, Terry was a good one.
Good one and a good instructor. But Pinto was,
about that, but he was a good player.
He was dropping his right foot back. They want him to keep him even.
Terry was one of those guys, clutch would absolutely jump up and bite you.
Hit a few other guys in that lineup that were pretty strong players also. That was a good, solid Twins team.
Yeah, that's the best infield that I've ever seen defensively and range-wise. They had Cavage, and they had Gutierrez at short, and they had Koski at third, and they had a little second baseman who could range far to his left. That was a good one. There's a strike, and the count 3-1.
Now you figure that Adams going to be going. Let's see what Robin has in mind. Marcus takes a long look down at Joe McEwing at third base.
Well, this should be a fastball.
That's the kind of day it is here, Robin. All bundled up.
He does not go. And there's the fastball. Couldn't get it. A lot of times the manager, though, will take into consideration.
Young hitter.
Yep. And especially when he's looking for his first hit. They got to go to second base. Oh, man, did he come down or what? I don't know about that one.
It was really interesting because they had an appeal play at second base in the Cub-Pirate game last night. And it's called the neighborhood play. And on the neighborhood play, if the throw is on the bag, you can't really appeal it. The only way you can appeal it is if the throw is off the bag.
He's on the bag. Good call by Dale Scott. And a good job by Eduardo.
You certainly don't want to use that appeal this early in the ball game. And managers are going to have to get a feel for that. Because if they're going to ask for a replay early and they lose it, they won't be able to ask again.
So here's Abreu. High foul. Get out here, it will. 3 rows back. He was 3 for 8 with an RBI in the series. And that hit him.
Tried to get it inside, even though we missed by plenty with Pinto set up outside.
So here's Adam. Adam 1 for 7 in the series. That was the home run coming in the 8th inning yesterday, his first of the season, and number 441 in his career.
Sunshine, but it was 34 degrees.
If you missed that game yesterday, Paul Konerko pinch hit leading off the 9th inning. Hit a bullet down, hit the bag at third, went for a single. Nieto came in to run for him, and he came around to score when we scored 2 in the 9th to tie it up.
Runners at first and second, they really can't shift near as much as they would like to. Not exactly a straight up defense, but it's as close to it as Adam will see.
Outfield, straight up. And the count 2-2.
The ball was up out of the zone. Just reached back and threw a fastball by him.
Out and around that. We will complete this game. Get on down to Kansas City. A 3-game set. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday out in Denver. As Adam goes up, chases another one. So 2 down. Right now, let's check out our picks to click. There you see. Demanjo, our director of crew. Alexei, Steve's going with Alejandro. And Paul Lamb and I. Paul Lamb and all the great folks at Hyundai. Makers of the Atlas. We're going to go with Adam Eaton. So here's Garcia. Evasio 3 for 9 in the series. Pulling off that one.
Last season, his batting average between Detroit and the White Sox. That was his pitch to hit. He got a fastball out over the plate. Where most of the pitchers have been going to get him is up and in. But this one, Hughes left on the outer third. He left it up. And Abasail fouled it straight back.
Had a good pass at it, but that was a good one to hit. Two on, 2 out, 1-2 to count. And of course, after that brief 6-game road trip, we come home on the 10th. We start an 8-day, 7-game homestand, 4 with Cleveland and 3 with Boston. And AJ. Little pop up, Escobar, and that'll retire to the side. We get a couple of guys on. Can't do anything with it after 1-0 score. series. We'll lead it off here in the top of the second inning. Takes first pitch strike. Over his face, Quintana 6 times has 1 hit. Outfield straight up, about equidistant. One to count. Pitching matchups in that Kansas City series. Eric Johnson against Jeremy Guthrie.
I think we'll see, well, maybe Guthrie in the opener, but Ventura got rained out today. The young, hard-throwing right-hander that earned that spot. So if they decide to shift him back, he'll go the opener, but maybe they'll think it's too much pressure on a rookie right-hander.
Well, that's where you got to know your players.
He's going to be a good one.
Oh,
and we're going to see him in that series.
He's got a good arm. Then on Saturday, Johnny Danks against Osai Chin. As Arcia cannot get it. Osai Chin, who was just absolutely, Guthrie had just befuddled our lumber. There's a breaking ball strike and the count 0-2. Then Chris Sale against James Shields on Sunday. That's a good #1 matchup. Be gone. Two down. The great seats are available for the next homestand against Cleveland. Come see our Sox take on those Indians Thursday, April 10th through Sunday the 13th. Tickets start at only $7. So to purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/tickets.
Pinto came up and hit the daylights out of the ball last year. In 21 games, he had .342 for these Twins.
5'11", 210 pounds. So he's put together pretty well.
He was ticketed to be the #1 catcher, and then they got Kurt Suzuki. They help him out, give him a little guidance along with Terry Steinbach. And for one, I'm happy Suzuki's not in the lineup. He's had just a great series against us, and as good a hitter as Pinto has been for them, I just as soon face him than Suzuki.
Suzuki's 5 for 10 in the first 2 games with 4 RBIs.
Always been a very good clutch hitter against us. In this series, he's been a terrific hitter.
Here you go. 4 strikeouts now. And after an inning and a half, no score.
us by visiting www.wgntv.com and click on the Game Zone banner for updated stats and information. The Game Zone is powered by St. Xavier University. Tradition, innovation, this is where they meet.
Diaz, Ramirez, and Flowers. Alejandro, 2 for 7. Both those hits coming in game one. Both those hits home runs. First time since 1960 that a White Sox player at home has homered on opening day. Last time it happened was Manny Minoso. High and deep. He goes back. He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes. Yes. Third one for Alejandro, and it's 1-0.
He loves the ball down. He loves the ball in if it's a fastball. And he got it right there. Couldn't have been set on a tee any better. Take a look where it shows up. It's low and in. 85 miles an hour, and Alejandro gets every bit of this one. Garcia gives it the courtesy toss, courtesy look, and then that's all he could do.
Alexei pops it up right side. Colabella. So 1-0. With that home run by Diaz. Alex Snell, his family. Generous contribution to White Sox charities. In loving memory of Ursula. Alex Snell has donated over $260,000 to White Sox charities. In loving memory of Ursula. Here's Tyler. Takes first pitch strike. Tyler 1 for 6 in the series.
Phil Hughes has always been a fly ball pitcher. It's going to help him in Minnesota because that ballpark plays pretty big, and you can throw fly balls and get away with it. He came from big ballpark in New York, where you can throw fly balls from right center over to the left field line and get away with it. But in this ballpark, if you throw fly balls, you're going to have some problems.
To the count.
One of the stars of yesterday, Lurie Garcia in the on-deck circle. Not only did he punch a single through the left side, which at the time made it a one-run game in the ninth, he keyed the rally with a 2-strike bunt. 0-2 count.
Attaboy, Tyler. Serves that one into right field.
Pinto wants it low and away, and Hughes, missing his spots early in this game, gets it up and on the inner portion. So far, he has been unable to put it in the glove of Josemiel Pinto.
So Leary 2 for 5, as Steve mentioned, with that RBI. But the big thing, first time I've ever seen that done. I've seen 0-2 bunts, a lot of them in my career, but never leading off an inning, an extra innings, and then coming around to score on a wild pitch.
It's pretty amazing. I know it fooled everybody in the ballpark.
Anybody tells you they were expecting it, but I want to hear that.
I'm sure Leary wasn't expecting to do it. But he had an inspiration.
He missed it. 0-2 the count.
Samuel Deduno on the mound. And, of course, the only thing they can do is hope that it rolls foul. They can let it roll for a long time.
So great speed aboard, and it caused a lot of panic. And it worked. A couple of wild pitches later, and poof, 7-6, good guys. Well, he saw Adam Eaton do that in spring training, and I'm sure that's what maybe popped up in his mind.
Adam Eaton did it very well, but he put it on the grass.
Well, in that situation, as he got him, he knew it. 2 down. But in that situation right there, all he's got to do is just, with the exception of right back to the Duno, anywhere it goes, it's a base hit. Here's Adam. Had a working man's at bat drawing a walk. Leading off last inning. Everything in this game is contagious. Home run, bunts.
And the ability to come back late.
Well,
last year there wasn't a whole lot of late comebacks.
That is the state of mind right there. That's the state of mind. And I was talking to a lot of my friends on my drive home after the game yesterday, and tell them this is a different ball club. Steve and I talked about it in spring training. This is just a different ball club than we had last year. We don't have to hit home runs to start a rally or to have a rally or to tie up a ball game late. We can do it with speed. We have not had this many fast White Sox uniforms since I've been here.
Oh, it's going to show up on defense. It's going to show up going first to third or first to home on a double. And the old adage that speed never slumps certainly holds true. If you got guys who can run, they're always going to be able to run.
Well, that was one reason that we're going to have some numbers, some sabermetrics put in our telecast later on, but they're going to be ones that are beneficial. The only thing I ever objected to with that is how fast it got elevated to that status. But that was one thing I really objected to when it first came in, because they took speed out. They didn't want any stolen bases. You cannot beat speed in this game.
No, there's a lot of
All
guys,
things being equal.
a lot of guys who've won divisions with ball clubs, and if you look back to Mike Scioscia's very good Angel teams, they had a lot of speed.
Yeah, but you touched on it in your last prior statement, because of the fact if you got speed, that means you got more range. So if you got more range, that means you're going to catch more baseballs
And help your pitching staff, which they
That's
certainly
what you
did.
usually do when you catch baseballs.
Yeah, I mean,
you usually help your pitching staff.
I'd like to see your guys turn the double plays that should be turned. If they can do that, spectacular plays are going to come, especially with this infield. But the routine double plays, that's what really helps out a pitcher.
2-2 the count. The more speed you have, the more tough plays you turn into routine plays. There goes Tyler. There's a little soft chopper. Colomelo a dive, and they just get it. But the home run by Diaza, his third of the season. We'll go to the third, leading 1-0. And take a look at the last out of the inning.
We might as well get it out of the way early this season and tell you young players, again, diving headfirst into first base is not a good thing to do for a couple of different reasons. One is you really risk a lot of hand, wrist, shoulder, elbow injuries by doing it. And two, if you could get there faster, Olympic sprinters would be diving across the tape, and they're not. They run through the tape with a body lean.
If you can run, now if you can't run, it doesn't make any difference. You can go ahead and fall into first base. But if you can run, they put the clock on.
Yeah.
Put the clock on. You're faster if you go ahead and run, especially if you can run like Eaton. Because when he goes in that air, his feet aren't on the ground.
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, where speed is paramount, where hundredths of a second wins you a gold medal or a silver medal, in the Olympics, the sprinters lean through the tape. That should tell you everything you want to know about the fastest way to get anywhere.
Aaron Hicks checks it up. Count hangs at 0-2. Yeah, DJ and I used to. DJ, my former partner, who's now with Farmio and radio, Darren Jackson, he just swears that you're better off diving into first base.
Well, some people think the sun comes up in the west, too.
Well, you know, the thing is that when I was in Kansas City, they put the clock on you. And there he is. There's my boy. He's something. He could run.
He could run. He's a good outfielder.
He was a real good outfielder. But he absolutely just goes by the diving. And I just absolutely go by running through the bag because of the clock.
Well, there's only one reason to slide into first base. And that is if you're running with your head up at all, you watch the first baseman. If his weight shifts where the throw is going to be off the mark and you believe there's going to be a tag play, you can dive to the outside and maybe avoid a swipe tag. But if he's going to stay on the bag or dive for the bag or do any of those things where quickness and speed is the key, then run through it.
I tell you, I don't even suggest that you do that, Steve, only because of the fact you can break an ankle, twist an ankle on that last second decision. I've been there and done it. I know what can happen in a split second. But if it's a big ball game, I mean a huge ball game, that's okay. Maybe you'll take a chance, but not to make it an everyday occurrence.
Well, we've seen a whole lot of players head first dives into second or third. They wind up jamming a finger. They wind up jamming a wrist, breaking a finger, hyperextending an elbow, or hurting a shoulder, and all of a sudden, especially a guy who's a big part of your team, he goes down for months.
Ball gets away, so he's going to make it to first base.
See what happened? Tyler did not get the glove down. And the object of that, you keep the glove down, can't possibly go through your legs. In hockey parlance, that's covering up the 5-hole. In baseball, you keep the glove down. Worst comes to worst, it bounces up and hits you, but you're going to keep it in front of you.
Here's Dozier. Dozier grounded out to Alexei. 1-2-0 for us, 0-1-0 for them here in the top of the third inning. There you go. Give it to him. Now let him handle it from there. Nobody at second base. Yeah, there he was. And they got him. Now he's going to call interference.
He's going to call interference because the path to second base was obstructed in the rundown, which took way too many throws. And once again, it's a different cast of characters, but the same result. Now watch what happens here. He has to, what he's saying is that Abreu impeded his path to the base. And that was called by Hal Gibson, I believe, the first base umpire. What you have to do when you make a throw in a rundown is you make a throw, you follow your throw. If you stay there, you run the risk of what happened in that situation. That could turn out to be a very big play. Once you make that throw, you follow it. No, you follow it to the other side. You follow it to the arm side and get out of the way.
That's interference.
Yes.
Obstruction.
Yep.
So a good call. Meanwhile, it shouldn't have been that way. First of all, he shouldn't have been on the bag in the first place. That's number one. On first base at all. Then, after that happens, forget about it.
It does go caught stealing, and it goes as E3.
So his first major league error on obstruction. Yeah, that would be a highlight reel right there on how not to execute a pickle play. There's a strike on that play right there. Abreu made the right play after he was moving to his right, and you had Escobar down there 2/3 of the way. Then give it to Alexei. But at that point, that's where Liuri's got to come over now and be at first base, because Liuri, just give him the ball and he'll chase it and he'll run it down. So now the walk.
One of the things now, Tyler has to go out there and, well, I would go out there and talk to Quintana and keeping his concentration, because he didn't come close to a walk until that sequence to Dozier. Now he's got to worry about Mauer and Willingham and keep this inning as clean as possible.
Mauer struck out. 3-2 high fastball. Curveball strike.
Joe stands off the plate a bit. Does that mean that he's inviting you to throw the ball away? His preference would be on the ball away?
He wants to, if you're off the plate, you want the ball away from you. And he wants to hit the ball into center, left center. I was watching a classic 76 playoff between Kansas City and the Yankees. And it was just amazing to me how far off the plate. I'd forgotten how far off the plate Hal McRae stood. It was almost like he was out of the box. And even George was way off the plate.
But they both were great off-field hitters.
No question.
Both of them. I mean, Hal used to drive the ball to right center. He came up with Cincinnati, later went to Kansas City. Of course, George spent his entire career with the Royals. But they both stood back in the box, off the plate, and it looked like they couldn't possibly get to the outside corner.
We had a great discussion about that same scenario with Ted Williams one day in spring training. Ted Williams, arguably one of, certainly, and maybe the greatest that ever lived. And we were talking, okay, Ted, how are you going to pitch George Brett? That's okay, you got to get a slider in there. I said, how can you get a slider in there when he's that far off the plate? He got upset. guys who stand way off the plate want the ball away from them. Guys who want the ball in close to them stand on top of the plate.
Well, in the meantime, Quintana, after that pickoff that wasn't, has pretty much lost his concentration. We've seen him at times go through short periods like this only to regain it, make a good pitch, and you're one ground ball away from 2 and out of the inning.
Mauer with the 3-1 catbird seat. And it's full.
Had a bit of a break there, as that was borderline at best. Good speed on the base paths.
Dozier 14 stolen bases last year. He's at first. Escobar can run. He's at second. And the payoff pitch to Joe Mauer. Nope.
I like the fact that Alexi went behind Escobar, and at least they attempted the pickoff. It usually will take a step away from the lead if Escobar is even thinking about going.
There he goes. And that ball into left field. Diazza, he's there. 2 down.
Both runners going, and Mauer does what he usually does, an inside-out swing. First ball he's hit into the outfield this entire series. And for a moment it looked like Alejandro was going to go to second base, but the runners had to retreat. And now only Willingham stands in between Quintana and getting out of what still could be an ugly inning.
Well, Willingham, hard single in the left field. That's the only hit that Minnesota has off Quintana. But he is now 7 for 14 with 2 homers and 5 RBIs against him. So the one guy that hits him the best at the plate. Count 2-0, so the guy who hits him the hardest with a catbird seat. Talking with Hall of Famer Burt Blyleven, one of the announcers on the Twins prior to the game. And Burt was talking about how some guys just see the ball out of your hand and you can't get them out. They just see it better. There's a strike.
I'm not sure the Dutchman had too many of those guys, especially if he got his curveball over the plate, which he did most of the time.
He threw 50 home runs one year. But most of them were solos.
Some were solos.
And Ron Kittle, we were talking about Kitty. Kitty just owned one. And he said, yeah. He said, he saw the ball really good out of my hand, so I had to change angles on him. Curveball, yes. And a count 2-2.
That's one of the biggest differences for Quintana. When he first came to Don Cooper and the Quintana we're looking at now, and that is the ability to occasionally get the soft curveball over the plate. That's one of the things that Coop said to him. You need a third pitch. He threw a pretty decent cutter, good fastball, spotted fastball, and he came up with that soft curveball and he got it over.
So 2 out, full count. Payoff pitch. Close pitch, didn't get it, and that'll load him up.
Actually, pretty good call by C.B. Buckner. It is close. A little low, just off the corner. He barely missed with the last 2, but Willingham winds up loading him up.
So the second walk of the inning. And here's Chris Colabello. Swung at a high fastball on a 3-1 count and went full. Then he took one right down Broadway for call strike 3.
Good breaking ball on the first pitch. Had Colabello well out in front of it. And there you see Escobar, Dozier, and Willingham with the bases full of Twins.
And not a hit in the inning.
Isaiah's going to throw at least 15 more pitches than he should have this inning.
0-2 the count.
That's one of those statistics that really never show up. What you'll see when a pitcher throws unnecessary pitches early in the game because of some miscues, you'll see earned runs coming in the 6th or 7th inning that might not have come had he not used up some of those pitches.
Well, the ball got between or underneath Tyler's glove, and then the rundown play that Ray really botched. That was just ugly. Come on. Nope. Can't get there. So because of that, they're going to get 3 runs on just the 1 hit, and it's a 3-1 lead.
Looked like Abisail didn't read that ball exceptionally well in right field, and I hope he didn't hurt himself. Ball's not hit hard.
There's just 3 gift runs right there. We saw enough of that last year.
Goes a 2-base hit.
There's the strike. That's too bad. That's shades of 2013 as far as Quintana's concerned.
Didn't have a whole lot of luck last year.
Well, he had terrible defense behind him, like he's had this inning. Two and one to Plouffe. Two and two. Just did get a piece of it. 3-2-0 for them, 1-2-1 for us. Best part about it, though, is we got a long way to go.
That ball a little too far inside, tries to throw a cutter in under the hands of Plouffe. It doesn't get it there.
Another 3-2 count this inning. Seven pitches. The next one will be 37.
And 67 total.
And we're still in the third inning. Now that's what we talked about, errors. And we've had, in essence, 2 errors this inning. They won't be up on the board, but we've had them. Actually 3. As he gets it. But 3 gift runs, and we'll go to the bottom of the third. We're already into the bottom of the third inning. Of this inning, they lead it 3-1. Semien, Abreu, and Dunn face Phil Hughes. 0-2 the count. Marcus it into a 3-6 fielder's choice.
That's a good look for this type of day.
Going out. And season tickets are available right now at low prices. So purchase the season ticket plan and get access to the best seats at the best price with the most benefits. WhiteSox.com or 312-674-1000. Here's Abreu. He was hit by a pitch. Chopper to Hopper and Plouffe. And very quickly, 2 out. That'll bring up Battle. Adam struck out his first trip.
Adam's hoping that Phil Hughes will keep the ball down to him. Somewhere at least around belt high, but Hughes, known for his high fastball, worked him up almost the entire at bat in the first inning and threw it right by him.
Runs on just one hit. Just joining us. Top of the third for the Twins. Lays off that one.
Hughes originally New York Yankees first round draft pick. 2004, 23rd player chosen overall.
Lays off that one. 2-2. Now he's still a young man, 27. Big guy, 6'5", 240. One, 2-3 inning. He has 4 strikeouts, and we trail it by 2. Baseball blog at WGNTV.com, sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, a local nationwide insurance agent serving the area for over 36 years. Join the nation. Visit JeffVuk.com because Nationwide is on your side. Arcia, Pinto, and Hicks here in the top of the 4th inning. 3-1 Minnesota. 35 degrees as we speak. Breaking ball strike. Two. Oh, and 3. He go.
7 strikeouts for Jose today. He really is changing speeds well. This was a nice block by Tyler Flowers. Angled the body and kept it right in front of him, and the rest of the play was easy.
Osmeal Pinto struck out his first trip. Last year in 76 at bats, hit 342, 4 homers. 12. That's impressive.
He's going to be a pretty good hitter.
That ball line, we got a man there. It's a hang Wolfram right there for Pinto.
We touched on it in the opening, but Aaron Hicks is one of the guys that Ron Gardenhire has said is a key to this ball club. They don't have many alternatives at this point in center field, and Hicks is so good defensively that being a switch hitter, if he can hit like he can, he'll be a big addition with his speed to an offense that dearly needs some runs.
That ball hit right at him. A couple of atom balls. Meanwhile, he needed a quick 1-2-3. He got it, but we trail it 3-1. Minnesota lead here in the bottom of the 4th inning. 3 unearned runs if you're just tuning in. So for us, it'll be Avasillo, Garcia, Diaz, and Ramirez. Javi popped up. Escobar short. First pitch strike. Breaking ball. So here's Diaz, and here's what he did leading off the second.
A low fastball on the inner portion. Hit his 3rd of the year. To go with 4 runs batted in. And at the time, a 1-0 lead.
Plouffe in on the grass at 3rd. And there's first pitch strike. Looks like he just throwing darts out there.
Right now, he's got his rhythm. He had some problems in the first inning, as a lot of pitchers will have. He walked Eaton and hit Abreu.
Just ate him up right there. Good play by Plouffe. 2 down.
Got that fastball inside, right on the hands of Alejandro. Plouffe with a good sliding grab.
Well, Plouffe in that window that we talk about so often, 26, 27, 28, he's 27. And that's usually when guys who have a lot of talent, which he's got a ton of talent, there's no getting around that. But either when they do it or they don't.
He's going to get every opportunity with their number 2 prospect, Miguel Sano, having Tommy John surgery and lost for the year. Before that injury, and he was having some elbow problems last year, but as far as swinging the bat was concerned, they felt he was just about ready, maybe a half year away. Now his debut is going to be postponed.
Ball, 2 strikes, 2 out. Attaboy, Alexei. And a reminder, provide your guests with the ultimate all-inclusive White Sox experience in a home plate club or Magellan Scout seats. Now, these 2 premium seating areas are the best way to entertain your most important clients, your employees, your friends, or your family. So 312-674-1000 or visit whitesox.com/premium seating. Here's Tyler. Sliced a single into right field.
Lexi swiped a couple of bases yesterday. But that's with Suzuki behind the plate.
Lexi with 30 stolen bases last season. Nothing in 1 to count to Flowers. Just underneath it. Oh, good pass at that one. Meanwhile, in the big hole, 0-2. Good lead by Alexei.
Good eye.
one look in.
Pinto was going to come out and talk with Hughes, then decided against it.
Another good lead by Alexi.
Well, that's not going to endear Pinto to CB Buckner behind the plate. It's a pretty decent pitch. One, if you're a pitcher or a catcher, you'd expect to be called. But when it wasn't, you just don't like to see the catcher trotting off the field.
Pinto actually did a pretty good job of trying to cover it up by faking like he was going to go to first base. And there's a base hit. So Tyler catches a break, takes advantage of it. More importantly, we have 2 on, but they're 2 out, and that'll bring up Leury Garcia.
Looks like he cut that ball away from Tyler. With good plate coverage, in full protection mode, he just eases it into right field. A good day for Flowers. Tyler Flowers, not for regular Flowers.
Leury caught looking. His first trip in the second inning. Fights that one off. And a souvenir left side. In and out of the hands of one fan into another. Lights that one off, and very quickly the count 0-2. No, unless you bring your glove to the park today, this is not a good game to be like a barehanded.
No. But you'll have plenty of room.
Got him upstairs. We threaten, can't score, and we trail it 3-1. $20 or more for a Sox game during the season and receive savings off the individual game ticket price, or enhance your outing by upgrading to one of our great party areas. So call 312-674-1000 and visit whitesox.com/group. Book your group outing today. It's the Bertucci boys, Bobby Bruno and Handsome Anthony.
Some hearty souls at the ballpark today. Temperature right now at 34 degrees. Fortunately for all concerned, it stopped raining well before the game started. Roger Bossert said we got a great chance of getting it in. And here we are in the 5th.
Yeah, I was talking with Raj this morning. And there's a foul ball off the bat of Escobar. Roger said this is his 48th year in this business. And without question, this one was the toughest he's ever had.
So when you have frost 30 inches deep on the field, which is something that
he's never had before.
He's never had. He can't remember his father ever having or his grandfather having. And I grew up in Cleveland where Emil Bossert was the groundskeeper. So it's 3 generations of sod fathers.
I was there when he was there.
And it's absolutely amazing that he has the field in this kind of condition to play.
Yeah.
You don't mind the rain, and in fact, groundskeepers around the league will tell you they don't mind snow in the wintertime. But it's a prolonged freeze that really gets to the field.
First time he's ever had to use the jackhammer. Break up the ice. Marcus got time. So Escobar, who started off that 3-run third, he struck out. The ball got between underneath the glove of Tyler, so he went to first base, beat it there. And it was just an ugly inning if you're just tuning in. 3 unearned runs we get. Here's Dozier. After Escobar reached first base on that wild pitch, Dozier walked, and Maurer lined out to left. Then a walk to Willingham to load him up with 2 out, and then Colabello with a little soft fly ball into right center field. It fell right just out of the grasp of Garcia after a botched rundown play. Oh, it would have been a 1-0 game. That is strikeout number 8.
Jose getting a lot of mileage out of that slow curveball today, and he's keeping most of these Twins off balance. And there's a couple of pretty good right-hand hitters in this lineup, not to mention Joe Mauer. And so far, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. Been a very impressive afternoon, an afternoon that should see him in the lead, but instead he's trailing.
Mauer a strikeout on a 3-2 fastball. Then that fly ball into left. And there's his first hit of the series. He's now 1 for 11. Just the 3rd hit given up. Jose and his Willingham, who had the first one back in the 1st inning. He just wears Quintana out. He's now 8 for 15 against him.
That fastball was on the outer 3rd. Willingham, good fastball hitter. And when you know you hit a guy, it seems like you never hit the hard ground balls or line drives at someone. They always find a hole. So with 2 outs, there's 2 on.
And here's Colabello with that soft fly ball into right field. It Avisail just couldn't quite get there. Got by him. All 3 runs scored.
Not a bad pitch. And it clears the bases. Now, one of the 3 runs that scored with the benefit of a hit.
Good rip at that one. Count evens at 1. One and 2 the count.
One of the things that Jose has learned as he's moved along in his career, it's still a very young career and still in the development stages, but he's learned how to elevate that fastball when he's got 2 strikes. He's thrown a couple pitches just above the belt, and he's gotten some good results on face-high fastballs when he gets 1 and 2 or 0 and 2 ahead of the hitters.
That ball hit hard there. That's over the head. So Colabello with all 5 RBIs. And it's a 5-1 lead.
That fastball probably was a little lower than he would have liked, and Colabello, who is an off-field hitter, drives this ball over the head of Garcia. So with 2 outs, nobody on, and nothing going on, the Twins have added a pair here in the 5th.
5 2-out runs scored. 5 2-out runs knocked in by Colabello. Lufez going out to center and struck out. One and 2 the count. Best in the business, Don Cooper. In fact, Sox lead the major leagues. Quality start since 2003. Yeah, 971. Last year, as bad as we were, Sox had 90 quality starts. Was 5th in the league.
It's no indication of the final results, however.
No, it was just the fact that pitching was not our problem. Blocked nicely by Tyler. So a full count. That's a pretty good stat. Leading the major leagues in quality starts since 2003.
That certainly helped Kenny Williams, the former GM, and now Rick Hahn, when you make decisions on which pitchers you can bring to your organization. as he loses him with that one low and in. So Plouffe draws a walk, keeps the inning alive. That's going to bring out the aforementioned Don Cooper to the hill.
And it'll bring up Oswaldo Arcia. Been to the plate twice, struck out twice. 5-5-0 for them, 1-4-1 for us. Just joining us, Phil Hughes, 27-year-old right-hander on the bump for the Twinkies. And he'll take it himself. But they come up with two more, 2 out runs, and they lead it 5. Boston Red Sox will face our Sox on April 15th, 16th, and 17th. All fans in attendance at any of these 3 games will receive a 2014 White Sox calendar, so whitesox.com or 866-SOX-GAME. And right here, we need 4 runs to tie, and we got plenty of time to get them. Top of the order, Adam Eaton, Marcus Semien, Jose Abreu. Adam has walked and then grounded out to first.
With Phil Hughes, unlike sinker ballers, you got to make him get the ball down, because left to his own devices, he's going to throw a lot of face-high fastballs.
Yeah, 4-seam guys, you make them get it down. 2-seam guys, you make them get it up. Takes a strike and the count 1-2. Well, one of the best things a club can do is get in that state of mind of coming back and winning a ball game. Because that's all it is, just a state of mind. And I'm just so happy because with the club we have now, we don't have to hit home runs to come back and win a ball game.
Well, a few men on base would help, and you start getting maybe 1 run back, 2 runs back if Adam can start things off.
Yeah, with this outfit, you can just chip away.
And Rick Hahn, talking about the ball club, said, look, we're in a ballpark that's built for power. So we're going to have guys who are able to hit the ball out of the ballpark. But for the first time, we're going to have the speed guys also. And that will manufacture some runs at times.
Well, in reality, there's not one player in the White Sox uniform can't hit the ball out of this park. So
nope.
You don't have to go out and get big boppers.
No. Especially
the first thing you got to do is go out,
up.
Get yourself pitching, which we've got that. And then the next thing you got to do is get guys that can catch the baseball. That's down into the corner, fair ball. Yes. He's going to make the turn. Here's the throw. Save.
On our Xfinity Speed replay, Adam Eaton hits the ball down the line and then takes off. Thinking about 3 bases, all he has to do is take one look at it. Doesn't have to pick up the coach. And he makes it easily. And Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Here's Marcus. Excellent chance to pick up his first RBI and also get his first hit. So for 12 so far. Pulling off of it just enough to lose it out in front of the plate.
Gardy's
seeing it about 54, 55 feet.
Gardy's going to concede the run. All he's got to do is hit a ground ball in the infield. Going to drive home his first run of the year.
Well, the best way to do that is just don't turn the head of the bat over. He's not seeing the ball. I mean, it's just that simple. He's out there. He's losing that ball at least 3 feet, maybe 4 feet out in front of home plate. I've been there and done that. I know where he's at.
That was not a good call. The fastball was up, wide of the plate, and CB rings him up.
It really wasn't that close, you know. I mean, it wasn't that close. So here's Abreu. But you know what it is, and it is what it is.
And Gardy is still going to concede the run.
If you missed yesterday's ball game, as that ball's hit deep. Stretch! Stretch! Get on back there. It will. One hops the fence. So the double by Abreu as Eaton scores. And we're chipping away. It's 5-2.
Second run batted in for Jose. And once again, Hughes gets a cutter up. And Jose takes it the opposite way. That's where most of his power is. He'll pull the ball, but more times than not, he'll take it to right or right center field. And what respect was shown him in the ball game yesterday with 2 intentional walks in the 9th and the 11th.
Never seen that done to a rookie.
Nor I.
Especially hitting in front of a guy who's got over 400 home runs. And especially when it was a right-handed pitcher out there. I mean, I've never seen anything close to it. In fact, he became the first major league player with 2 intentional walk game within his first 2 major league games since 1955. And the reason 55 is because that's when they just started tracking that stat.
It's really amazing. I mean, the respect that he's already garnered. And they got it from the scouting report in Arizona and from what Gardy saw the first game.
That ball hit deep. We're still chipping away. You can put it on the board. Yes. It's a 5-4 ball game.
Second home run of the year. Adams now driven in 4. And that was a no-doubter, as Hughes, who does throw a lot of home runs because he's consistently up in the zone, throws another one. That's a fastball. He tried to get it up high. He didn't. Adam unloads. A line drive rocket out of the park. That brings Rick Anderson out to the mound to talk with Phil Hughes, who has seen a 5-1 lead shrink to 5-4 within the framework of a triple, a double, and a home run here in the 5th inning.
Well, you said earlier that Dunn was going to get him if he missed with that fastball down.
He kept trying to throw it by him head high. And when you get it down to the big man, belt high, a little bit lower, he can still put a charge into it.
Don't stop now, boys. As there was a rolling, breaking pitch. Fouls it away. 5-0 for 2. Pop up to short and a ground out to short.
Well, this has taken a fairly comfortable Minnesota lead and made it once again into a very tight ball game.
Well, we were just talking about it at the start of the inning. This is why this offense we have is one that you don't. Adam's going to hit some home runs.
Yes, he is.
But the thing about it is that we don't have to hit home runs to get something started, to get a rally started.
Now, the triple and the double certainly helped.
That game yesterday was a beautiful thing from our standpoint to see.
Very tough loss for the Twins because they had a pitcher out there in Glenn Perkins in the 9th inning who blew only 4 saves all of last year. And he gave up a pair in that 9th. Almost lost it there.
Well, as he strikes him out, Paulie started off that 9th. That rocket hit the bag down the third baseline. And he ran for him. He started off with 2-run 9th. But again, the only home run we hit in the ball game was Baez. So here's Diaz. A homer and a foul out to Plouffe, who made a good catch on him.
Bullpen up and going, and it's Anthony Swarzak. We've seen him once in the series. That was in the first game. Threw a spotless 7th inning.
That breaking ball down in the end.
Tried to drop that curveball over. Didn't quite get it there.
There you see the DJR patch on the sleeve. Sox uniforms for in memory of David Reinsdorf. Tragically, unexpectedly passed away. Too young. The 2-2 pitch. By 5-0 for the Twins. 4-7-1 for our Sox here in the bottom of the 5th inning. .33 as we speak. As we hit on it in spring training, we talked about it a lot. The fact that the best way to rejuvenate veterans is with with young players, and especially young, exciting players.
Well, it's true, because guys who've been around forever, we'll take a look at the look on the faces of some of the young guys.
That's popped up. And stay in here. Nice recovery right there by Pinto to make the catch. But the Sox put a cooking number up on that board. We'll go to the 6th, trailing by 1. Game. We scored 1 in the second. If you're just tuning in, they scored 3 unearned runs in the third. They added 2 in the fifth. We came right back with 3 in the bottom of the fifth. First pitch strike to Pinto. It was Miguel Pinto, 25-year-old catcher, has struck out and lined very hard to left field. That's low. It's a lot easier on an offense when they know they don't have to hit home runs to get back in a ball game. What it does, it just makes them cut down their swings a little bit. They go more for the line drives, more for the base hits. As we mentioned, Adam Dunn, he's a home run hitter. He's going to hit home runs.
And you have to like the fact that Abreu will hit the ball exactly where it's pitched. They want to pitch him away, he'll hit it that way. They want to throw some sliders in or soft stuff, he's going to pull the ball. All things being equal, his power's to right center field, and he hit the daylights out of that double.
Well, he certainly is one of the most impressive young rookies that you're going to see. He's impressed everybody. Well, he should.
He got a beautiful swing, and he's very strong.
And he plays a very good first base that we've seen so far. Pinto.
I think if Ron Gardner had any doubts about the scouting reports he might have gotten, and you know that he got a bunch of them from spring training. As soon as he saw him hit that line drive that took off over the head of Arcia the first time up on the first pitch he saw, he probably felt they were right. This guy can hit.
Well, I told you the one that excited me was his next hit, the next time up. That sinker down and in from Velasco, when he just absolutely killed it and kept it fair.
And both pitches were off the plate. So at the century mark now, Quintana probably should have been out of the third about 20 pitches sooner than he was. Now this will be a much shorter outing than it should have been. But he's certainly hoping to get a couple more runs and to hold down these Twins and not have a repeat of last year's 17 no decisions.
0-1 to count to Hicks, who is grounded out to first and lined out hard to center.
There's not much that Aaron Hicks can't do. Remember, #1 draft pick. They're just waiting for all of that potential to translate into performance. The fact that he tore him up 2 years in a row in Florida, which is a good place to pitch in spring training, unlike Arizona, which is a good place to hit in spring training, led everybody associated with the Twins to think that Hicks is a guy every day. Now, it didn't work out last year, but this year he looks a lot better.
Nice pick by Marcus. So 2 down. Well, the physicality is there, as we talked about with Aaron Hicks. It's there. There's no question of that. The ball's down to the mentality. The approach.
What has to happen? I mean,
he's got to have a tipping point.
Well, this is a chicken and egg question, but does he have to have the confidence to believe he belongs here every day, or does he have to hit to believe he belongs here every day?
Well, it is a chicken and egg, but he has to have a tipping point. He has to have maybe one at bat. So, Paul Richards, former great baseball man, manager, general manager also of the White Sox, the Orioles, Houston, recognized to be one of the great baseball minds of the century. And what he said is so true. The mirror will tell you when you're going to be able to hit. The mirror will tell you when you're going to be able to pitch.
So one day you're going to wake up and just say, I belong here.
That's it. That's it. But he's got the physical tools to be a tremendous player. But we have seen that in a lot of cases. The physicality was fantastic, but they never got that tipping point where that mirror would look at him and say, hey, young man, you belong here.
There's a lot of guys out selling cars right now that had a lot of tools.
Unbelievable.
A lot of tools.
I've got a friend out in California right now, Bob Flynn, who had the greatest talent of any player never to play in the big leagues I've ever seen. I mean, it was unbelievable. You're talking about a 5-tool? I haven't seen a guy with 5-tool player, which we call a quote-unquote 5-tool player yet, could match his. Meanwhile, he never got there. He broke his hand, knocking the door off the wall when they told him they were going to send him down when he was unscored on in 8 outings in spring training. And watch out, Jose. Oh, what a nice inning to come back after his club gets him right back in the game. And we'll go to the 7th, trailing 5-4.
I think provided by 97.5 FM ESPN Deportes. Chicago's first and only Spanish-language sports radio station.
And we understand the Sox have just put out an announcement that any fan who had a ticket to today's game, whether you attended today or not, you will be given a free ticket to any White Sox game in April.
Well, that's terrific because
that's good business.
We got Cleveland coming up. We've got Boston coming up. Next homestand.
Good business. And nice besides that.
Well, for the fans who decided to stay away, or the fans who came here, you get a chance to see another one, and it's Anthony Swarzak who comes into the game, and he's a pretty talented young right-hander. He was a starter for a bit before finding a home in the bullpen with these Twins. We saw him in the opener. He was in relief of Ricky Nolasco in that one. He comes in with a 1-run lead. So Phil Hughes' day is done. He went 5 innings, gave up 4 runs on 7 hits. He walked 1, he hit 1, he fanned 5.
Another strike, and the count 1-2. Alexei is 1 for 2. Single back in the 4th inning, right up the middle.
It's kind of nice to see Ramirez, who perennially in the cold weather gets off to slow starts. But not this year. This year he's been swinging the bat very well.
He's been a different guy all spring since spring training. We talked about that in our first telecast. Last year he was, I don't know, lethargic. Because there's a little chopper. Nice pick by Colabella. But last year he was just down. It seemed down in the dumps. This year, for some reason, boy, he was lively, had that little bounce in that step of his.
I think there's one factor. It's kind of interesting. When you bring a player in as a rookie, a lot of times you expect the veterans to have some sort of effect on him. Bringing in Jose Abreu, with what he accomplished in Cuba, and a countryman, Alexei Ramirez, I'm certain looked up to the way that Abreu went about his spring training. He's very much a professional player and very polished, with a great work ethic.
That's a base hit. That's the 3rd base hit of the game for Tyler. It's 3 for 3. Well, I agree. We talked about how now with Abreu here, you got Alexei, Viciedo.
I think he's going to help Viciedo also. Viciedo's just a youngster. He's 24 years old.
He's going to bring them all up. Right. He's going to bring our veterans up.
I think you take a look at him and you watch him, and I think everyone watched him in spring training, how he went about his business, how he worked every day, how he prepared, and he was a tireless worker, hit as much as anybody and probably more than most. But the professional attitude that he brings and the stature that he brings, you could see it when he took the field. He didn't look like any rookie I've ever seen. He looked like a guy who certainly believed that he could be here, and looked like a guy who was here for maybe 5 or 7 years.
No, he had that presence, that poise. And there's a line drive base hit into center field. So 1 out, 2 on. Leary picking up his first hit. Well, that's one thing that Kenny Williams said when he scouted Abreu. He said in his whole career he had never seen a more professional-looking youngster than Jose Abreu.
He was pretty right on the money in that respect. So if you can bring in a guy that can help you with the numbers and then help you in the dugout and the clubhouse both, you got yourself a pretty good player. And the fact that at least 3 teams that we know of went to at least $60 million meant that the White Sox weren't the only team that recognized the talent that he had.
So with 1 out, 2 on, here's Adam Eaton, 1 for 2, a walk, a ground out to first, and then last inning started off that 3-run 5th with a triple down in the right field corner. Paul Lamb and all the great folks at Hyundai. Adam is their pick to click this afternoon. Outfield straight up, spread out.
Swarzak originally signed a letter of intent to go to LSU Louisiana State University, but instead the Twins drafted him in the second round in 2004. He elected to sign. They got a terrific baseball program at LSU.
Takes the ball to even the count at 1. Stevie touched on this in the first game about Aaron Hicks out there in center field. Plays everybody the same.
I think
this is something different we've seen in the Minnesota teams.
I think eventually he's going to start to shift somewhat. But he plays everyone exactly straight up, which is most unusual.
That's foul. Yeah, especially when you're used to seeing Torrey Hunter out there in center field with a Minnesota uniform on, and he was all over the place. He was moving from right center to left center on 2 different hitters.
Sometimes on different pitches.
Oh, yeah. Torrey played the counts. We've seen Adam do that already. Play the counts. One ball, 2 strikes, 1 out. 5-5-0 for the Twins, 4-9-1 for our Sox. 3 unearned runs to Minnesota in the third. Two and 2. Boy, Adam's seen a lot of pitches in this game already.
He saw 7 the first time up when he walked in the first inning. Is Brian Dunsing, who is just back.
Congratulations to he and his wife on the birth of their son. And a full count, another full count tap.
Pinto has a word with Swarzak.
Fans hadn't seen it yet, but Adam's got some pop in his bat that they will see before the season's over.
He'll hit at least 10 this year.
And here's ball 4. That'll load him up. Another good at bat. Zags packed. 1 down, and here's Marcus. I would say Marcus is due.
He is overdue. And Rick Anderson is coming out. He's going to tell Anthony Swarzak that he's trying to overthrow the ball. Because once he got ahead of Eaton, nothing was close. He threw every fastball as hard as he could throw it, and they all went high over the head of Eaton, who's not going to expand his strike zone. He's going to take a lot of walks this year. And yet, he'll go up there sometimes if he feels it. The guy tries to lay it in to get ahead, and he'll swing at the first pitch.
All right, nice and easy, Marcus. Short stroking, buddy.
Arce and Hicks have pretty good arms in the outfield. Not so much with Willingham.
Takes ball 1.
And Adam knows he's got a job to do, because on a ground ball in the infield, he's got to get a piece of the pivot man and break up 2 and get that tying run home.
Drops the breaking ball on him. That evens the count at 1. That was a big pitch right there for Swarzak.
Well, missing with the fastball, sometimes if a catcher will call a curveball for you, and if you commit to it, you can get that release point back.
Ball hit hard but foul. Meantime, it's a 1 ball, 2 strike count.
Tyler doesn't have the great speed. He's got pretty decent speed for a catcher. And if they go back to the curveball, which you'd think they would, a lot of them wind up in the dirt. Tyler has got to have all this momentum coming forward.
2 balls, 2 strikes.
That time he shortened up the breaking ball, threw it a little bit harder, but missed with it. Fouled off a tough pitch. That ball had a part of the zone. It was up and away. Marcus was able to stay alive.
And a full count. Years past, Vince Jockeys would be all over Schwarzenegger.
Not any longer.
No, you'd have 5 or 10 guys up on that top step of that dugout screaming. Meanwhile, a payoff pitch. And there's ball 4. This game is tied at 5.
First run batted in, albeit a soft run batted in, but nonetheless it ties it up. 2 singles, 2 walks, and Abreu. Recipe for a big inning.
Abreu 1 for 2, that double, RBI double, run scored last inning. One hop the wall in right center field, deep right center.
I don't think that Quintana's going to come out for another hitter, so it would behoove the Sox to score a few runs and get the young man a richly deserved W in this one.
Takes a pitcher's pitch right there. And the count 0-1. Tie. We trailed it 5-1 after 4.
Two hard sliders, 2 pitches out of the zone, and an 0-2 count.
Where you're trying to get his thoughts together.
Probably the fastest threesome we have on the ball club, all on the bases. You see it? Eaton and Simeon.
That ball hit deep into center field. Stretch! He's back! It's off the wall! Here comes 1! Here comes 2! Here comes 3! And the Sox lead it 8-5! Mercy!
The daylights out of that ball, and it went right over the head of Aaron Hicks, and Aaron Hicks actually went in the wrong direction. He was going to his right. That ball was sailing to his left. And what Swarzak did was 3 straight times he went to the well with the slider. Abreu made the adjustment. Swarzak didn't. This ball hits high over the head, and what happens with Hicks is he gets too close to the wall, and Joe McEwing saying, come on, let's go. 3 score for Abreu. He's driven in 4 today, and that's going to be it for Swarzak. So as Swarzak departs, we'll step out with an 8-5 lead, and we'll be back after these messages. Run deficit last year, 6-2. The ERA just under 4. Very durable, 73 appearances. Didn't have an opportunity to close too often. Didn't close well, and opponents hit .283, which is a high number.
So the infield in for Adam Dunn. Adam, a 2-run homer last inning. Sox with 4 runs in, 1 out. Abreu at third after that bases clearing triple, and we lead it 8-5.
Last inning, Adam Eaton, his 2nd home run of the year, and a Adam Dunn rather, no doubt line drive home run.
Big pitch to 1-1, and it goes Adams' way. 2 balls and a strike.
Infield in at all 4 positions. They can't put on the radical shift.
Just tuning in. Minnesota led it 5-1, going to the bottom of the 5th. Good rip. You'd like to have that one back, maybe just a bit high.
We said when last inning started that we have to chip away. Instead, it was bang away, and it's a 3-run lead. Adam just gets under one right over the middle of the plate.
Oh, we guess something we hadn't had in a long time. It's a good young talent that can run.
I think Gardy had it right yesterday with the 2 intentional walks to Abreu, but when he looked up this time, there was no place to put him.
That's a bit much of a stretch, walking a rookie with a bases loaded.
Well, Buck Showalter did it, but he wasn't a rookie. It was Barry Bonds.
Well, I've seen it done too, but not to a rookie.
Not to a rookie. And usually not until the 9th inning.
Full count. And that's going foul.
Adam broke his bat. Go back for another one. Pinto will go to the mound to talk with Dunsing.
Straight up, spread out. Very much spread out. Got him. Big out. And that'll bring up Abasail, who's 0 for 3 today.
Abasail's been a little over anxious today. He's swinging pitches up and out of the strike zone. He swung at a few that have been low and out of the zone. And they're playing him as a pull hitter in the infield. Somewhat surprising because he does hit the ball back through the middle a lot, but you see Escobar, now he moves to his left and saunters back to his right.
Pick him up, Avi. All started with 1 out. Base hit by Flowers in the hole. Leury with a single. Good at bat. Good, solid at bat. Once again by Adam Eaton drawing that walk. Then Simeon another good at bat right there as he walked. That was with the bases loaded to tie it up, and then Abreu unloaded him with that triple. That takes a big hop for him, but damage is done. 4 runs go up on that board. We lead it 8-5.
Anna went 6, gave up 5 runs on 5 hits. Only 2 of them earned, walked 3, and 8. And 8 had a tough day yesterday. He came on, no innings, a couple of hits, a couple of runs.
Well, he's got to get that slider over. Because when he doesn't mean it was how hard you throw. They're going to get you.
So for his own confidence, he's got to have a good outing here today. And that first pitch is over the plate. It was a slider.
Dozier 0 for 2 with a walk and a run scored. 8-10-1 for our guys. 5-5-0 for their guys. And the count 0-2.
That was a much better slider than the first one. He keeps it down there. There's not anybody in any league going to hit it.
Nate gets that slider over. He is double tough. Outfield straight up. Bit of a gap out there in right center. And the count 2-2. And once again, a reminder, the White Sox are offering a complimentary ticket to any April game at the U.S. Cellular Field for any fan who held a ticket to this afternoon's game against the Twins. The offer is good whether the fan attended the game or was kept away by the rainy weather. Had him 0-2. It is now 3-2.
2 real good pitches and try to make the perfect pitch when all you have to do is make another slider, get a third of the plate, not the corner. You're going to be in good shape, especially with the movement he has.
Oh, 2 and walks him. Getting back to the ticket, today's ticket can be redeemed this month at the U.S. Cellular Field ticket office for a lower box, lower corner, outfield reserved bleacher, upper box, upper reserved, or upper corner game ticket in April. If you have any problems about that, call 312-674-1000. Here's Mauer. He's 1 for 3. That's 5 in a row now thrown by Nate.
Bullpen up and going, and I don't think Robin is going to be too patient.
No, he was not.
If the struggles continue for Nate Jones.
And the count 2-0.
Michael Clado warming up in the pen, and he was absolutely brilliant yesterday.
He might have a chance to be brilliant again today.
He came on, got out of the 6th inning. With a runner at third, representing the tying run, he got 2 pop-ups. He got out.
There's a strike. Another one.
And Mauer can do that because he feels that he's going to put the bat on the ball.
Mauer's one of the best, if not the best, 2-strike hitters in the American League.
Got his first hit in the series last time up in the 5th.
So he walks the first 2 guys.
And that's going to be it, as Robin's going to come out. His team has just come back, scored 7 in the last 2 to take a 3-run lead. And it looks like it's going to be Michael Clado.
That's who it's going to be. Yeah, they got to get Nate straightened out. Got to get him straightened out. That's just, he's got major league stuff. Does not have major league control right now, and until that happens, they're going to have to work with him on the side. Get Bobby, Thigpen, and Coop to get him straightened out. But he'll depart, and we'll be back.
Comes in, and he comes in a jam. Last year at Omaha in AAA, he was 1-2, but an ERA respectable, 3.55 in 19 games. 36 strikeouts in 38 innings. He's got to face Willingham, who's got a perfect day today, as he usually has against a guy that he sees awfully well, Jose Quintana, who is a pitcher of record at this point, going 6 innings. But the lead in jeopardy with nobody out here in the top of the 7th.
Willingham, the 2 singles, the walk, and he scored twice. Mully was happy for a while. Now Mully's on the edge of his seat.
Well, the ground ball here will turn things around as Willingham doesn't run very well. And he usually is a pull hitter. Heads up left side of the infield.
Willingham can cover the fastball. That's what makes him dangerous. If he's healthy at all, he can cover that fastball.
We highlighted him in the opening 2 years ago. 35 home runs. He drove in 110. He's in the 3rd of a 3-year contract. And with all of the leg problems last year, he's one of the guys that the Twins are counting on to be a big run producer again.
Big pitch coming up, the 1-1. 2 on, nobody out.
That was 98. Right by him away. Plato just reaches back and throws it by him.
Boy, that was close.
Well, we had him fooled.
Yeah, he did.
And maybe an inch higher. D.B. Buckner rings him up. Let's take a look at Scott Downs.
Well, there's a good chance that ball was high enough when it crossed the plate. Take him out here. You don't want to go full. There he goes. Ball in the dirt. So now both runners advance and a full count. That's just good heads up base running by Twins. You get a guy out there so intent now. The hitter, he just forgets about the runner.
Dozier got a tremendous jump. Even if this ball is not in the dirt, you're not going to be able to get him.
No, he had that thing.
And Mauer's trailer. He takes off. You can make a case for a stolen base for Dozier and a wild pitch, but it's probably going to be 2 stolen bases.
Good effort.
And that's exactly what it's ruled. Dozier a stolen base. Joe Mauer advances on a wild pitch.
If you're just getting home tuning in, Alejandro Diaz a homer leading off the 2nd inning. That gave us a 1-0 lead. Then we gave them 3 unearned runs. It was just a terrible inning in the 3rd. They came back with 2 more in the 5th. And then in the bottom of the 5th, we came back with 3. Bottom of the 6th, we picked up 4 more. But that is in jeopardy.
Man in the on-deck circle, Chris Colabello has all the runs batted in.
Coming with 2 out. And that at 97 is fouled back. Right here, Michael. High pop up. Abreu. Watch out. Now he makes the adjustment. Now big out.
He calls it. He wants Leury to get out of the way and then has to drift right back with the wind as it takes it toward right field.
Well, Leury was getting set in case there was a bobble right there to try to recover.
And from Dozier's standpoint, not anything you can tag up on, so he's a third of the way down. And Willingham is retired in a key situation. Now
and
the infield stays back.
Colabello, a 3-run double in the third and a 2-run double in the fifth.
Michael is rushing it up there today. This is as hard as we've seen him throw all year. All year meaning spring training and a couple of games. Colabello, left to his own devices, will hit the ball to right or right center field.
That's a high to him. His dad played for the Italian baseball team in the '84 Olympics. Steve told you earlier he was signed by the Tigers but released just 22 days later. How about that?
If a team's going to sign you, how bad do you have to be to spend 22 days there?
Maybe he just knocked somebody out.
There will be. He played for the Italian team in the World Baseball Classic last year.
Breaking ball. Oh yeah.
Well, when you see 98-mile-an-hour heat under your chin and suddenly you see that slider at 85, you can have a tendency to give a little ground, and you see the knees buckle. Caught the inside part of the plate.
Breaking ball down, so full count. Once again, we have had a lot of full counts in this ball game on both sides. The off pitch. Play. Eight-5 Sox, 8-10-1 for us, 5-5-0 for them. 2 home runs in the game if you're just tuning in. One by Diaz, as I mentioned in the second, a 2-run shot by Dunn in the fifth. Trevor Plouffe on deck. Ground ball sucked up by Alexei. 2 down as Dozier scores. And it's an 8-6 ball game. Another RBI for Colabello.
If Plato can get out of this inning and just give up the 1 run, this is one of those situations where you can come in with the heart of the order and get a seventh inning type save.
Well, if he does, his stock's going to jump about 20 points.
He's looked better and better as spring moved along and into the season.
Here's Plouffe. Takes a breaking ball strike. Plouffe 0 for 2 with a walk. Trevor can cover a fastball. Not to the extent of Willingham, but he can cover a fastball.
He's got big power.
Yeah. One and one. Bad legs and no bad legs. Willingham, as long as he can cover that fastball like he can.
He can do that.
He'll be dangerous.
Make a mistake and he will hurt you.
One to count.
Michael wants to end it right here because I don't think he'll be around to face Arcia, who's in the on-deck circle. That's why Downs is throwing in the pen.
Three and one. Oh, Michael, no walks. Seen enough of that to see. There's a good strike. Full count.
From Plouffe's point of view on the last pitch, you just have to hope that it's not called a strike because you got no chance after seeing everything inside. And you see one just barely tipping the black on the outside corner.
And there's a base hit on a 3-2 fastball. So he'll get the cutoff man. Meanwhile, the second walk of the inning scores. And it's 8-7.
Fourth run of the year batted in. As Plouffe, who is a very good fastball hitter, getting one to his liking. And both of those runs charged to Nate Jones.
Two things that will kill a momentum faster than anything on a ball club. First one is errors. Second one is based on balls.
That's 4 walks scoring today for the Twins.
Arcia 0 for 3, couple strikeouts and ground out to first. Three and 0 with Pinto on deck. So he went 3-2 to Willingham. He went 3-2 to Colabello. He went 3-2 to Plouffe. And he's 3-0 on Arcia.
Gave him the 3-0 green light.
I love it.
He got it up in the zone. Probably a little higher. Well, he already figures got nothing to lose. Garcia has not been swinging the bat very well this year. So if he got a fastball, he gave him the privilege to swing, and he had a good cut.
He was all over just underneath it. And a full count. So
there's a break.
4 consecutive full counts.
Let's see if we can take advantage of that one. That one was well off the plate. Take a look at where this one appears on the Xfinity pitch track.
That ball hit into center field. Deep. Back there, makes a catch. Is Anaheim? Yes! A beautiful play by our center fielder. Saves a run and a tie. They scored 2 7th inning stretch. We needed 8-7. Perfect. Here in the city, beautiful on a very chilly afternoon. 35 degrees as we speak. As we just gave them 2 more runs, couple of walks leading off the inning. They both scored. We gave them 3 in the 3rd. But we lead at 8-7. Ryan Dunsey on the bump.
One thing about these games, they've all been exciting. And this one is getting a little too exciting.
Well, we've got an exciting ball club.
Yes, we do.
There is no question about it. We talked about it all spring long. This is not a club that you saw last year. This is an entirely different club. It's an entirely different mindset. It's an entirely different makeup. This is a fun club to watch. When you got a lot of White Sox uniforms, can get around the bases as fast as some of these that we have. That's fun to watch. And what a play by Adam Eaton right there to save you. That little man, that is Paul Lambs. Picked a click today. Piazza. 1 for 3 that homer leading off the second. With 3 home runs. Checks it up. He did not go. And the count 1-1.
There's Adam Eaton. He scored a couple of runs. He's walked twice. He tripled in the 5th. All in all, quite a day.
That pitch has popped up by Alejandro.
The ball almost right over his head. He goes up high. He knows he's going to hit the wall. And he also realizes that he has to take the ball out of his glove with control. And Arcia can't believe it. He hasn't had a hit all year. Hits the daylights out of this one, only to be robbed of what probably would have been a 3-base hit, because if that hits the wall over Adam, it bounces right back toward the field of play.
I don't blame Arcia.
No, that was highway robbery.
Here's Alexei. He's 1 for 3. Takes first pitch strike. Dancing, good defender. 2 down. The fans come watch our Sox take on the Cleveland Indians Saturday, April 12th at 1:10. First 20,000 fans will receive a limited edition 1983 White Sox fleece blanket to bundle up in. So WhiteSox.com or 866 Sox game. Here's Flowers. Tyler 3 for 3 with a run scored today.
Where are those fleece blankets when the folks need them?
And there's hit number 4 right off the end of the bat. He'll take it. And first hit off Dunsing. So that'll bring up Liuri, who's 1 for 3, but it was a big hit. That was last inning. With 1 out, Tyler singled, then Liuri singled. Then the walk to Eaton, the walk to Simeon, and then the bases clearing triple by Abreu.
Liuri swings the bat with a bit more authority from the right side.
But he lays down a better 0-2 bunt from the left side.
It's hard to imagine that he's going to do that too much more, but it helped win a ball game as Ronald Belisario loosens up in the pen.
That is popped up. Dozier. Arcia comes on now, takes charge, makes the catch. That'll retire the side. So we've completed 7 and we lead it 8-7.
8 runs, 11 hits, and 1 error for our Sox. 7-6 and 0 for the Twins. Colabello, he's had a big day, driven in 6 runs, a 2-out, 3-run double, a 2-out, 2-run double in the 5th. Abreu with 3-run triple in the 6th, and Dunn with his 2nd home run of the year, a 2-run shot in the 5th inning. Start something special with great leases and low financing on a new Honda. Visit shophonda.com or your local Honda dealer as Ronald Belisario comes in the ball game. Last year with the Dodgers, ERA just under 4, was 5-7. He came on yesterday in relief of Donnie Veal, threw the ball very well.
And here's Josmil Pinto. Takes ball 1. He has struck out, lined hard to left, and popped up to second.
Marcus Simeon right on the line and deep at third.
To another count. There's a strike.
We got way out in front of that one. Towering foul ball.
2-2. 8 runs, 11 hits, 1 error for us. 7-6-0 for them. We scored 1 in the 2nd. They scored 3 gift runs unearned in the 3rd. Scored 2 more in the top of the 5th. We scored 3 in the bottom of the 5th. Then we scored 4 in the 6th, and they came back with 2 in the 7th. Out and around that one.
Took a little something off it. He had Pinto well out in front of it. He was just able to stay alive, and there's one of the hitting heroes today, Jose Abreu. He's driven in 4 of them with a double and a triple.
High, staying here. It won't. Trying to come back.
Marcus was trying to go up and over the tarp, but couldn't get it done.
Aaron Hicks on deck. Eduardo Escobar in the hole. That's deep in the left field, and we got ourselves an 8-8 tie. Like a getting the over breaking ball. He just Tommy hawked. So another no decision.
17 last year, and his first start of the year, Jose Quintana will get a no D. As Pinto ties it up, his first hit. First run batted in. He was trying to pull everything in the at-bat, and Belisario hung it on the inner portion, and he took it out into the pen.
Aaron Hicks. We've walked 5 guys in this game. 4 of them have scored.
Webb went 2 2/3 yesterday, so he's probably not available today.
One down. And the next time you're at the game, stop by Shy Sox Bar and Grill at US Cellular Field. Shy Sox Bar and Grill offers a full menu from Gibson's Restaurant. It's open 4 hours prior to all home games and post game as well. Shy Sox Bar and Grill is located at the Gate 5 Plaza and ask for Sil Vasilios. Still process. He'll take care of it.
Jason Kubel comes on a pinch hit. He did some damage yesterday.
He's always done damage against us.
Couple of doubles, couple of runs scored in yesterday's game, his first start of the year.
They led it 5-1. We came back, took an 8-5 lead, and they have now tied it up.
Pretty good left-hander. We've seen Theo Bar in this series. Caleb has got pretty good stuff.
Alexei. 2 down.
Dozier's got some power. Got the all-time home run record for second baseman for the Twins. And in situations like this, he will open up and cheat a little on the fastball and try to hit it out. But for Belisario, it'd be nice to keep it away from this guy.
18 home runs last year.
That on the outer third is Dozier. Left nothing to the imagination. He was trying to untie this one.
Well, he's 0 for 2 today with 2 walks and 2 runs scored.
Simeon at third base is a couple steps in front of the bag and coming in with the pitch, still thinking that Dozier might want to bunt it. Don't move too far off that line.
Nice kick. But the home run by Pinto to the bottom of the 8th. It is tied at 8.
Who comes in. Escobar departed for a pinch hitter. And we've got a new pitcher, Caleb Theobar. Last year, a terrific year for him. 3-2 the ERA, 176 in 49 games. Opponents hit a paltry 154. He was a starter during all of his college career at South Dakota State. All-time leader in starts and innings pitched. And he was released by the Brewers in 2011 before finding a home in the bullpen here. Adam Eaton's going to lead it off. And he fouls off a bunt attempt. Good idea with a left-hander on the mound, falling off to the third base side, but he didn't get it fair.
Trying to drag it right there. That would have been a good way to start it. Adam has scored a couple runs in this game. He also has triple walked a couple of times and made a sensational catch in center field. He's going to do it again. Nice play by Field.
He just barely got him, but get him he did. And when you have to do a 360 spin, you want to make sure that the ball is on the second base side of the first base bag. It's a terrific bunt, and it took a heads-up play to get him. He put it in the right spot. Scalabello had to stretch into the field of play, and that's the only angle Thielbar had.
Yeah, if it's just a shade harder, gets by him in the space there. Meanwhile, Semien 0 for 3 with a walk, coming with the bases loaded. Back in the 6th inning.
It's going to be real interesting, regardless of what Semien does, is what they're going to do with Abreu in the on-dexter. You get Dunn coming up after him, a left-hander on the mound, and a guy who's very quickly established himself as one of the most dangerous hitters around.
Well, Gardy is a terrific manager. He uses a lot of common sense and a lot of logic. So you take it from there. All right. And that's going to be out of play into their dugout.
Calabello getting close enough. Fortunately, the wind just pushed it away at the last instant. You're looking at the man with 6 runs batted in today. As he leans in, but can't quite get to it. Calabello played 9 years with a combination of minor league and independent league baseball, where he finally got his shot, and he's making the most of it.
Yeah, he paid his dues. Winter of 2012, he was down in Mexico playing.
Find a spot, you get an opening, and you take advantage of it, and that's all you can ask is get the opportunity.
2 balls, 2 strikes to Marcus. Off the end of the bat. Outfield straight up, spread out. Big gaps in both left center and right center. That ball hit back, way back. He looks up. You can put it on the board. He is. Sox lead it 9-8. First hit of the season for Marcus Semien.
The last time up, a very quiet run batted in on the walk. This time up, he unloads, and that was a bomb. Very happy Sox dugout have retaken the lead after the Twins came back in the top of the inning to tie it at 8. Marcus Semien unties it with a bomb here in the bottom of the 8th.
Breaking ball to Abreu, who is 2 for 3, RBI double. A bases clearing triple. 4 RBIs, 1 run scored. This is an emotional ball club. And by that I mean for us.
You're not kidding. Let's take another look at a blast. A fastball right down the middle. And what a time to get the first hit of the year. And that ball is long gone over the bullpen. Shows you the kind of power this young man has.
Breaking ball. I have been through the whole gamut today of emotions, as you have.
Well, you get the lead. You're down 5-1. You start to bang away, not exactly chip away. Then you have the lead again, only to see it disappear again.
This will be like this all year. This is going to be a fun team to watch.
Well, there's a very happy young third baseman. Playing because Connor Gillespie has been ill with the flu. Marcus Semien.
That ball hit right at him, right on the money. That's the hang wolfing for Abreu. But as Abner designed it, in the top of the ninth for them, it's going to be Mauer, Willingham, and Colabello.
And you would think Matt Lindstrom would come in looking for save number 2 and hoping that Robin doesn't have to go any deeper in what is now a well-worked bullpen over the last couple of days. And there's Matt Lindstrom. Bobby Thigpen watching over him, getting him ready.
High. And that'll retire the side, but not before Marcus Semien's first hit of the season. And the Sox lead it 9-8.
Comes on looking for save number 2. He's got to face the heart of the order. They're the numbers from last year. They're pretty good numbers, but he didn't save any of his 4 opportunities.
No, we wouldn't have it any other way. So here's Mauer. 1 for 3 with a walk and 2 runs scored in this game. Outfield slightly to the left. First pitch strike on the outside corner. Joe has faced Lindstrom 4 times. He has 2 hits.
You could pretty much say that about any matchup with Joe Mauer. Good slider, threw it right in on his fists.
Yeah, he stays on top. He's awesome. Stays on the side and he gets hurt.
Gordon Beckham will start his injury rehab tonight with Birmingham, so that's good news.
Yes, it is. Count hangs at 0-2.
Last year, it took till May 24th, 5th, and 6th against the Miami Marlins to sweep a series here at U.S. Cellular Field. With 3 outs, Bucs will have accomplished it in the first series, but there's a lot of work to be done right here.
He gone. Joe, I'll tell you what.
Joe doesn't believe it.
Joe, you never see Joe Mauer do that. And if you never see a guy do that, you know it was probably a bad call.
Well, Tyler can't get the glove back even in the neighborhood. However, that being said, it's a huge first out.
And we will take it. So here's Willingham. He has homered off Matt. 1 for 9. Outfield straight up, spread out. Takes that up high. That's about the most emotion I've ever seen Joe Mauer.
Well, a key situation, and Joe Mauer hasn't had the best of series, but he has scored the last 2 times, and he felt that ball might have been just a touch outside.
Yeah, what hurts?
Just an island.
There's a strike. Not many players I have seen in my 55 years in this game I respect more than Joe Mauer.
Well, he's going to get a lot more years added onto his career playing first base every day.
I'm just ecstatic that they moved him over there to give him. You want to see guys like that hang around as long as they can.
Well, he had a severe concussion last year, and they'd asked him in the past to move to first base more, and he said no, he wanted to catch. I mean, he loves to catch, but physically, you take such a beating, and you can only have so many concussions before it really starts to affect you. And now he doesn't have to worry about that too much.
Well, Levin and I were talking about it before the game. He asked me what I thought about Mauer at first, and I said, in my opinion, he's going to be an outstanding first base. He's just a great athlete. It's just that simple. He's not a better athlete probably in Major League Baseball than that guy right there. Two and two the count. And a full count.
Well, they've got the full shift on, the same shift that they use on Jason Kubel. Just reverse it, and it's on Willingham. With Garcia playing well on the third base side of second.
Matt, if you're going to throw a slider here, don't get me over.
Well, he shook off the fastball, moved to the slider. And we're going to see a pinch runner, I believe, for Willingham representing the tying run.
So as the pinch runner comes out, a reminder, MLB TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, is now available, so join the millions of subscribers. Watch every out-of-market game streamed live in true HD, plus over 200 spring training games, which that's over with now. But MLB.TV Premium includes a free At-Bat 14 subscription, allowing you to watch baseball on over 400 mobile and connected devices. Visit WhiteSox.com for details.
Bartlett pinch running at first base. Former shortstop for these Twins, then traded to Tampa Bay, then out of baseball last year, and he made the club as a non-roster player.
So here's Colabello. 2 for 4 with 6 RBIs in this game.
Matt could use one of the same ground balls that he hit to drive in a run in the 7th inning. It was right at Alexa.
Just got a piece of it. You got guys like Jeter, Cal Ripken, George Brett, Joe Mauer. You guys are special.
Well, not only great players, but great representatives
that's
of
what
the
I'm talking
game.
about. Great ambassadors.
They're all terrific. They've all done a great job, not only for their teams, but in the communities, their respective communities.
Ground ball. He just looks. He's going to get the out. 2 down.
Really the only play that Marcus had, because Bartlett runs pretty well. If you don't get him at second and you go there, you open up the door for a huge inning. And so he chose the safe out. This ball isn't hit very hard. He takes one look and realizes that Bartlett's pretty close to the bag, gets the easy out at first, and now 1 out away with the tying run in scoring position.
And you got the tough Trevor Plouffe. He's 1 for 3 with an RBI, drove in a run with a 2-out single in the 7th inning. Talk about today, this young man has got a whole bunch of talent that has not come out yet. So he has faced Matt 4 times, and he's 0 for 4.
Matt Lindstrom looking for save number 2, trying to make Ronald Belisario 2-0 this year.
Lays off that one. Strike, and the count evens at 1.
Plouffe probably a little surprised at himself, although that ball was more inside than he would have wanted, but he doesn't usually take too many fastballs.
And that's out of play, so 1-2 count. Bartlett at second. And here's where, if you're in the outfield, you might want to cheat just a couple of steps in, just in case.
Well, a good hard slider blowing away will end this game. He set him up with some heat. We'll see where Tyler sets up.
Upstairs.
Might overthrow it. He got under that ball and it stayed up.
It's all right. He missed in the right place.
If you're going to miss up, miss way up.
That's it.
Got RC in the on-deck circle. You just assume that get the hit.
2-2 pitch. And a full count. Two out. Top of the 9th. Tying run at second base. And the payoff pitch. And there's a base hit into right field. And this game is tied at 9.
Plouffe can hit a fastball. He's always been able to hit fastballs. And that fastball was up, out over the plate. And for the second time in 3 innings, he delivers a base hit. I think Matt had confidence in the slider to throw it to him there.
Well, another walk. Okay.
Yep.
So we've walked 6 guys today. 5 of them have scored. So here's Arcia. He's 0 for 4, but he was robbed of extra bases and an RBI in the 7th inning. And here's a robbery.
Arcia hits the daylights out of this one. A great jump by Adam Eaton. Banging into the wall, but holding on.
Two and one. So walk 6, 5 of them score. As I said, this is going to be an emotional team all season long.
Osmeal Pinto on deck. He homered to lead off the 8th inning. Matt cannot get that slider near the plate.
Guys in the 9th. That was Eil, Garcia, Diaz, Alexei. And that ball hit deep into center field. He's not going to get that one. He's on his way to third base, and the Twins lead it 10-9.
First one batted in of the year for Garcia.
First hit of the year.
This fastball out away. Again, with the inability to get anything over the plate but a fastball, major league hitters will hurt you. And Adam Eaton goes hard into the bottom of the wall. No chance to get that one. And Oswaldo is a happy man.
Pinto takes strike 1. 1 for 4, that homer leading off last inning. Oh, and 2. Boy, they have scored some 2-out runs today. First 5 were scored with 2 out. Next 2, so that's 7. 9 out of the 10 scored with 2 out.
And all of them involved a walk in the inning, except the runs in the 5th. That walk came after the damage.
There was just a roller, hammered foul. Yeah, this young man looks like he knows what he's doing with that bat in his hand.
Well, last year wasn't a fluke. When he hit 342, it was limited action. They called him up. They loved what they saw. They wanted him to work on his defense. He's been doing a good job with that. Swinging the bat is not going to be his problem. Now he's going to look at a fastball away.
Ball hit hard. But they come up with a pair. We go to the bottom of the ninth, trailing 10-9.
Scoring the tying run, Bartlett, a lifetime shortstop. And a new pitcher, Glenn Perkins. Last season, spectacular ERA of 2.30. Successful 36 of 40 times in save opportunities, but he blew the save yesterday in his one inning. He gave him a couple of runs on 3 hits with a walk and a couple of strikeouts. And he's got a 1-run lead to work with.
Pinto didn't miss Perkins' head by more than a couple feet.
Well, if that one gets him in the back of the head, they're going to need another closer.
He was going down.
I'm not sure who would come out of that bullpen.
All right, boys, it's time right here. Here's Garcia. Takes that pitch inside. 92, he's 0 for 4. 3 for 13 in the series. 10 runs on just 9 hits for them. We have 9 runs on 12 hits. And the count 2-0. Viciedo has come out on deck to hit for Diaz.
Viciedo had a base hit against Perkins in the 9th inning of yesterday's game. He came out to hit for Flowers, as 3 of the first 4 men that Perkins faced had hits. And then a very costly error on an Adam Eaton chopper tied up the game and sent it to extras.
There's one. Left side in the hole. Little bobble. And they get him.
They probably don't get him with Escobar at shortstop. But Florimon came in when they pinch hit for Escobar, and he's got a little more giddy up in that arm. Goes in the hole and juggles it right here. But a big arm was able to get the job done at first. He got him.
Yeah, he did. So here's Tank. Well, the way we're positioned right now with this ball club, there are going to be some games like this. I mean, it's going to be an exciting season. Any way you want to look at it. This was an exciting day. If we lose this ball game, that's popped up right side, that's playable. And now he's lost it. And that falls, and that's a fair ball. So Tank on his way to second, he'll get there. Now he's on his way to third, and he will get there. Yes.
Well, Arcia, for some reason, didn't get to the ball quickly enough, and he thought that it was going to be played in the infield. But Dozier and Colabello, with the wind blowing the ball away from them.
That's got to be with that wind right there, as you said. That's Dozier. That's got to be his play.
He went after it, couldn't get to it, and then the ball is thrown away. And there's a huge break as the ball kicks away at second. Nobody is covering third, and heads up base running, and now the infield has to come in.
And here's Alexei. He's 1 for 4. Good check by Alexei. Boy, he had that thing sitting on dead red, got it, but it was too high.
And it looked like Pinto was thinking about perhaps a suicide, because he went out to get the ball. If Alexei had swung, he'd have hit the back of the glove.
Line shot right to him. Boy, that's a hang whiffle right there. Ted coming. And here comes Paulie.
Can't hit the ball any harder. And unfortunately, Florimon right there.
Tyler Flowers was 4 for 4 today. So they're going to send up Paulie to hit for Tyler. Paulie hit against Perkins yesterday. Led off the ninth inning with a bullet off the bag at third base.
That's the first pitch he saw. He's only seen one pitch this year. Guys will tell you to pinch hit for a living. Go up, look first ball, fastball, and if you get it, air it out.
He got it yesterday. So now 2 out. Lifetime off Perkins. And this should do it. So the Sox in a seesaw battle here against the Twins, trying to sweep them. They can't get it done. Twins scored 5 runs in the last 3 innings. They win it 10-9, and we'll be back.